Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Last time I talked about my entire story as an attractions cast member in Tomorrowland. This was from hiring in from May of 2019 to the eventual leaving of the company in December of 2023. If you are interested in that story, check out the end card that probably just popped up or the link in the description. Anyway, you're here to hear some stories about dealing with guests when working general crowd control and helping with general show operations. This includes guest control in my usual Land of Tomorrow, assisting with parades, and assisting with the infamous mini fireworks shows. Now, I was at my 3 attractions about 90% of the time I was working there, but I did have some shifts that were assisting with crowd control towards the end of my 8-hour shifts. We called them split shifts. You start at your attraction and you end the night helping with fireworks shows. Now, I'll try my best to section things off into chapters for this video, so that timestamps will be available on the video as well, and in the description for those looking for that one specific thing. There's no set timeline for this video as I will be jumping all over around, and I don't really remember exact dates when these stories happened. Just know, depending on the show, you can probably make an estimated guess on what time of the year it was. The only thing that I can really mention is pre- and post-pandemic, to be honest. Now, without further ado, I present guest stories from Crowd Control. Tomorrowland Guest Control. Prior to the pandemic, we had shifts in our land that assisted with guest control. It ranged from extending and shortening queues to parking strollers, as well as general guest help. The other lands still have this, I believe, but for some reason it never returned after the park reopened from the pandemic, to Tomorrowland at least. The only exception is for special event nights where we would kick people out of the land if they didn't have a wristband, but that's just something really small that I'm not going to get into. Anyway, I did a ton of this when I only knew Autopia at the time, as it was a good way to get away from my attraction and not have to change uniforms either. Well, this shift was pretty much cakewalk, and I don't really have too much guest interactions as I do with fireworks shows, but it's still something I wanted to talk about. Stroller parking was the main thing that these guest control shifts were, and one day, I was moving strollers around the Star Tours Buzz Lightyear area. Sometimes strollers are a bit heavier than others because guests load the crap out of these strollers. I assume it's to be used as a battering ram, but gosh dang, these strollers are heavier than Joe Mama. Well, one of these strollers seemed weirdly heavy. Nothing was at the bottom of the stroller like a normal one, but upon further investigation, there was a sleeping baby in the stroller. I didn't notice it because the blanket was covering them up, but still, what kind of parent leaves their baby to go on some rides? Now, just to add on, this stroller was in the stroller parking area and in between a bunch of other strollers. It's not like I was relocating it for being at the entrance or something. No, it was parked correctly, but I was just moving strollers to make sure there was more room in the walkway. Now, let's get back to the baby situation. I flagged down one of my coworkers to go get security and wait for either security or the parents to get back. Well, about 10 minutes later, security arrived and they did confirm that yes, there indeed was a baby in there. Shocking. Now, you're probably wondering what happened after that, you may ask. Security ended up waiting for the parents to get back, as I had to write a statement on what I saw. These are things we must write if we have any interactions with guests and or other cast members. Basically, these are just things that we have to write on our accounts of the incident so they can use for legal reasons in case, something like that comes up. Well, I wrote my statement and apparently the parents came back 30 minutes later. Yeah, who knows how long that baby was in the stroller before I found them. I can only imagine the conversation they had with security. Jeez Louise, man. Now, just for my sanity reasons, there are rider switches for a reason, folks. You can use them so you don't have to do things like this. If you don't have someone to watch your kid, well, maybe you shouldn't come into the park today. Oh hey, yeah, by the way, this wasn't the last time I have had this scenario happen. I had it happen at least 4 or 5 more times since I worked at the resort. Don't leave your child unattended, because I know for a fact I would not leave my kid unattended at a place like this. You do not understand some of the horror stories I've heard that I will not be repeating in this video. Just know that they are not mine to tell and I don't feel comfortable talking about them to a general audience. Do not leave your children unattended at Disneyland. Jeez Louise, man. Anyway, that's pretty much the only crazy story I have from Tomorrowland guest control shifts. I do have one from the time I did Fantasyland GC one time, but it's like really short. Like not enough for its own chapter short. Basically, some guest threatened to break my fingers because I moved his stroller half an inch, because I was moving strollers down to widen the walkway. He got in my face and everything. I told him just to keep threatening me for touching company property, as the stroller was technically a rental. He didn't really like that answer and stormed off. To be honest, I don't even think it was the stroller that he even rented, because there were a handful of other strollers just like it in the area. Well, that's out of the way. Let's talk about Mickey's Mix Magic, shall we? Mickey's Mix Magic. This is one of the many shows I worked for my split shifts. This is just one of the filler shows until the holiday shows come around. We got that one special once in a blue moon show. Anyway, you probably know what it is. This part of the video is going to be pretty much post-pandemic from 2021 to 2023, so just giving that heads up. No exact dates, by the way, just know that this is the time frame I'm talking about. Well, believe it or not, I do have a few stories to tell about working this specific show, but just for some quick context about working fireworks shows. The cast members working in these shows are mainly there to direct traffic and keeping walkways clear. They aren't there to chat, but just to help move things along. Now, why do so many people try to leave during the busiest time of the night beats me. We get so many dumb questions at the peak of the show. Like, why do you guests ask the most complex questions during the loudest part of the show? Like, seriously, I can't hear you at all, bro, and you're talking like a freaking hamster. Anyway, let's move on to some of my guest stories about working the show and how many vacations I ruined because I'm a mean old cast member in a monorail outfit. Yeah, most of my shifts were split shifts, starting with that monorail and ending with Mickey dancing to some funky beats, if you know what I mean. The first story comes from a busier night. We pretty much have no more viewing area, and my job is to keep the walkway clear next to the Plaza Inn. I was pretty passive aggressive in this area because this is a very congested walkway when it's busy. It was getting to that point where I would have to use my little light wand on its bright setting and put it in front of people to stop them from taking a picture. Like, I would let them take their one picture and leave, but some people would full on be a basic bee about this, man. Like, get your picture and get out of there, you clown. It's only going to get like 3 likes on Instagram tops there, buddy. Don't even get me started with live streamers. These people are the worst. Like, if you were taking this live stream thing seriously, you would have already gotten a good spot at this point, you freaking dork. Look, listen, I'm sorry that your one viewer can't watch the fireworks for the filler show that already has 20,000 different POVs on YouTube. Now, getting back to that one specific night I was talking about. The show is pretty much 2 to 3 minutes to being done. This lady comes up to me and starts waving her arms around like a weirdo. I asked her if she needed some help or something, but then she waved her arms again, like more gesturing to the full viewing area. I then asked her if she needed something, but I already knew what she was going to say. She then scoffed at me and asked where she was supposed to stand to watch the show. I then said the thing that you aren't supposed to say, but at the same time, technically you're not wrong for saying it. I said, well, you should have been behind the rope 10 minutes ago because the show is pretty much done. And then the finale was pretty much wrapping up at that point, and she was not happy. She was so pissed off from my true statement, and I ruined her whole vacation because I messed with her poor time management skills. Sorry, ma'am. Let me just rewind the filler show for you to miss. Oh, yeah, then she demanded to speak to my manager so they could fire me on the spot. I laughed, and then one of my leads came up to see what the fuss was about, because I wasn't helping clearing out traffic, by the way. I told him that this lady's angry because she missed the show. He then pulled her to the side, and I helped finish clearing out the traffic. Well, after the show, my lead then pulled me to the side and pretty much said I did nothing wrong, but I didn't say the correct thing. While I wasn't wrong, technically I wasn't right either. To be fair, if this lady had just asked me instead of just standing and waving her arms around like a fool, I would have tried to help her out. It wasn't as bad as the guy who literally followed me around because the firework portion of the show didn't happen. Yeah, that actually happened. Some boomer literally followed me around because the pyrotechnic elements don't happen on weekdays during the slow season. This boomer, and yes, it was an older guy that would be classified as a boomer, came up to me and asked me what time the fireworks are going to happen. I then told him that they only do fireworks on weekends for this time of the year. I guess I struck a nerve with him because this dude literally followed me around for the next 20 minutes. This was a lighter night, and I was just a roamer to make sure people weren't blocking walkways too much. So as I walked around and did my job, this boomer followed me around as I walked back and forth up the walkway. Mind you, he was giving me a scowl the entire time. Yeah, that Joshua feller, he canceled the fireworks shows because he don't believe in the magic. Oh, curses. That's my old person impression. It's pretty bad, right? Keep in mind, I wasn't really uncomfortable with him following me around, by the way. This guy was not only shorter than me, but at the same time, you're really going to bully a cast member over the filler show? If I really felt threatened, I would have gone backstage. Well, after about 20 minutes and missing the entire projection show, this dude finally lost interest and waddled away, realizing that I wasn't making it up. No fireworks, bro. Sorry, but not sorry. Now, if you think that's bad, just wait until I get to the next few shows. Halloween Screams. Out of all of these shows to work, this is the worst one in my opinion. People and their cultic obsession with Halloween, I tell you. Halloween is mid, at best, and y'all need to stop fantasizing the holidays like this, man. Now, before I offend any more people with my unpopular opinions about their candy holiday, let's talk about Halloween Screams, shall we? This is the show that people will block walkways, go into planners, and just straight up climb trash cans for. I know people do that for the New Year's Eve show as well, but luckily, I never had to work one of those shifts. There was this one group that full on was in the planners, and I had to be the one to tell them that they couldn't be in there. I went up to them and politely told them that, hey, you guys can't be in the planners, it's not a viewing area. I told them that I could possibly get them viewing in a different area, but then they told me, no, absolutely not. Honestly, the viewing area wasn't too crowded yet, but the show wasn't going to start for another like 30 minutes or so. I know they were all comfy with their blanket, but you know, they were refusing to move. I had to pull out the big guns. You may ask, oh, did you go tell on them to security? No, I went with a different approach. This was my third and final time I was going to tell them to move, as I knew one of the real reasons you shouldn't be sitting down in the planners. Well, I had to bust out my trap card and I told them, hey, I'm not trying to be mean about this, but you guys can't sit here because this is where service animals relieve themselves. If you, catch my drift. Well, they did not catch any wind of my drift because they are daft individuals. Now the next thing that happened you may think is crazy, but I swear to Peter Griffin this actually happened. I kid you not. To further illustrate my point, a service dog went into the planners and made some nice hot fudge for them. Then they took my hint and swiftly left the area. Fools. Now, let that be a lesson to those that think the planners are a good idea. There is a reason why we tell you not to sit in them, and that evidence enough is for those hot fudge enthusiasts out there. Speaking of planners, I got another story about planners and how I ended up in one. Granted, I was standing in it, but still ended up in one. The show was underway, and we were about to hit the middle of the show. Then, out of nowhere, all the show elements went out and the fireworks stopped. The show was abruptly cancelled right in the smack middle of it. Well, our protocol for this is to just grab all the ropes and poles and chuck them into the planners. Also to prepare for a bunch of angry people to get mad at you because WTF bro. To be honest, when something like this happens, the cast members are just as shocked as you are, and there is no reason to overreact like this one guy did. This one guy, I kid you not, was so freaking angry that the show got cancelled that it wasn't worth taking down the ropes and the poles near him as he was grabbing them and chucking them all over the place. I'm being a little over dramatic for entertainment purposes, of course, but he literally chucked one of the poles with the rope still attached into the planner. Makes my job easier. Now you're probably wondering how I ended up in the planner. Well, I didn't want to deal with this lunatic chucking poles, so I hopped into the planners and ran away from this psycho. I got to the other side of the planners near the little walkway across from the Pixie Hollow area. I did not want to be in this guy's vision as the first cast member he saw, as they're gonna probably get decked. Luckily, he did not deck anybody, but I didn't want to be in that line of fire in case this guy decided today was the day. Listen, I understand it's frustrating when shows get canceled out of the blue like this, but just remember there's always a reason behind this. For this show specifically, Small World ended up doing a backstage evacuation when this happened, and the pyrotechnic elements are used in this area, so cancel the fireworks and get all the guests out safely. Now, this isn't always the case, but just know that there is a reason behind it, and not just because the rodent in the sky says, no more show, because they think it's funny. Well, let's move on to the last show of this video. Believe in holiday magic. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last topic of the video. Like I said before, I barely did guest show operations for parades and fireworks, as I was normally at my attractions during this time, or I was already off by the time this happened. I did also work the Wondrous Journeys show and did some special event nights, but I don't really have anything to talk about with guest topics in regards to those shows. Maybe if some people are interested, I will make a follow-up talking about what it was like from working from our perspective. Anyway, the holidays are upon us and the lamest projection show is here. This show is the most likely to get canceled due to the time of the year that it plays. It's very windy and sometimes it rains a lot during this time. For obvious reasons, fireworks don't really get launched off in the rain. Oh hey, remember how I mentioned wind too? Well, while it might not be windy where all the people are standing, it's very windy in the sky where the fireworks go boom. I'm not a pyrotechnic expert, but I would just like to say something here. Disneyland is located very closely to a freeway, and the fireworks also light off very close to that freeway. So, if it was very windy, these big booms wouldn't go big boom over the backstage, but go big boom over the freeway. Oh hey, Fireworks 101, what comes up must come down. There are some chunks that do blow off from the fireworks when they explode, and they gotta land somewhere, right? Well, they can't be lighting them off when it's windy, as these chunks would land on our homies on the freeway. You don't want to mess with our freeway homies, right? This is pretty much most of the complaints I got toward me from guests during this time, as the pyrotechnic elements would get cancelled minutes before the show starts. No one was crazy enough to throw a pole, but I did get screamed at by a few people. Now many of you are thinking that I've saved the best story for last, right? Well, wrong you are, because I wanted to bait y'all into learning more about fireworks safety and how guests get mad at us for canceling the fireworks. Haha! That's it for this video. I know it's sort of a short one, as I really didn't work that much guest control during my time at the resort. I preferred working my attractions when possible, and I left this to the smokes that like dealing with the big crowds. I did have a few noteworthy stories to tell, but just trust me that I have way more for my attractions. Speaking of my attractions, the next few guest stories will be about them. They will be roughly coming out every month or so, just not oversaturate my channel with Disney content. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you liked the video and want to help support my channel, go check out some of my other content. I make various amounts of skits, films, and other series. I even have a series where I talk about the attractions I worked at on a surface level. Probably good to catch up on those before my next guest stories video to get somewhat familiar with the bare basics of them. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.